2015. Over a decade ago. That is the last time the Duke Blue Devils won a national championship. And in those 10 years, no school has brought in more talent than the Blue Devils. They have brought in a whopping 38 5-stars in that time period. They supposedly have a ton of NIL money, and Duke is looked at as an NBA factory. So let's take a look at Duke's shortcomings, how they aren't winning with so many 5-stars, and their NBA production. If you enjoyed this video, make sure to like and subscribe. Legendary head coach Mike Krzyzewski took over the Duke job in 1980. He would hold that position for 42 years, coaching up into the 2022 season. In that time, he won 5 national championships, became the first men's coach to win 1,000 games, had 8 National Players of the Year, 28 NBA lottery picks, and also won 6 gold medals as the head coach of the U.S. men's national team. Krzyzewski built the Blue Devils program into what it is today. His earliest teams were all about developing and building over the span of a couple of years, but outside of a few players, that is not what the Duke program is anymore. The Blue Devils have completely adopted the one and done model. It was in the early 2010s that you saw the philosophy change around Duke recruiting. And although they had had a couple of one and dones before then, like Corey Maggette in 1999 and Luol Deng in 2004, it seemed like it was Kyrie Irving in 2011 and Austin Rivers in 2012 that really changed the way Duke recruited. Because before then, Coach K's championship rosters were built on upperclassmen. His first title team in 1991 only started 1 freshman and had upperclassmen like Christian Laettner and Bobby Hurley. And they would go back-to-back, winning it in 92, where they returned a core of Christian Laettner, Bobby Hurley, and Thomas Hill, as well as seeing Grant Hill make a big sophomore jump. And Coach K's next title team in 2001 was much of the same. The main contributors on that team were future NBA players like Jay Williams, Shane Battier, Mike Dunleavy, Carlos Boozer, and Chris Duhon. And Duhon was the only real freshman contributor. And before making the switch to the one and done model, Coach K's final title team was a team led by senior Jon Scheyer, the current coach of the Blue Devils, Kyle Singler, and Nolan Smith. His next championship team would be in 2015, and it was headlined by 3 one and done players. This was the beginning of Duke's recruiting dominance. Those 3 one and dones were Justice Winslow, Jahlil Okafor, and Tyus Jones. And since that trio's time at Duke, the Blue Devils have pulled in 35 5-stars, which is the most in the country. Duke and Kentucky were nearly even on 5-stars from 2015 to 2020, but after that 2020 season, Duke pulled ahead. Coach K's teams from 2015 to 2022 were absolutely loaded with NBA talent. After that championship, they had 4 5-stars come to Duke in Brandon Ingram, Luke Kennard, Chase Jeter, and Derek Thornton. That team also had Grayson Allen and somehow lost 11 games and flamed out in the Sweet 16 against Oregon. The 2016 recruiting class had 4 5-stars in Jason Tatum, Harry Giles, Frank Jackson, and Marquise Bolden. They were a 2 seed in the NCAA tournament and got upset in the round of 32 by 7 seed South Carolina. In 2017, they got the number 1 player in the nation in Marvin Bagley, as well as 3 other 5-stars in Trayvon Duval, Wendell Carter, and Gary Trent Jr. Again, Duke was a 2 seed and did make it all the way to the Elite 8 this time, but fell to Kansas. Their 2018-2019 squad is one of the most iconic Duke freshman teams of all time, featuring players like Zion Williamson, Cam Reddish, RJ Barrett, and Trey Jones. But somehow with all that talent, they were nearly upset in the round of 32 by UCF and Taco Fall, and then in the Sweet 16, they only beat Virginia Tech by 2, before falling in the Elite 8 to Michigan State. 2019-2020 squad had 5-stars Matthew Hurt and Vernon Carey, but that season was ultimately canceled due to COVID. Duke's 2020-2021 squad had 4 5-stars in Jalen Johnson, Mark Williams, DJ Stewart, and Jeremy Roach, and somehow missed the tournament. Then it was announced that the 2021-2022 season would be Coach K's final year, and they brought in 3 5-star freshmen in Paolo Banchero, AJ Griffin, and Trevor Kills, as well as returning solid pieces from the previous year's squad, and they made it all the way to the Final Four just to lose to their arch rivals North Carolina. Jon Scheyer, a member of that 2010 national championship squad, was named the next head coach of the Duke Blue Devils, and people wondered if he could keep up the same recruiting that Coach K was doing late in his career. And he immediately made it clear that he could get just about whoever he wanted. His first recruiting class consisted of 5 5-stars in Derek Lively, Dariq Whitehead, Kyle Filipowski, Mark Mitchell, and Tyrese Proctor. And that team disappointed majorly, only getting a 5 seed and losing in the second round to Tennessee. But Scheyer's second season seemed to take a little bit of a different approach. He mixed 2 5-star freshmen in Jared McCain and TJ Power, while returning Proctor, Filipowski, Mitchell, and Jeremy Roach. This squad made it to the Elite 8 before losing to Cinderella and in-state rival NC State. And that brings us to this season. 2024-2025 Duke had an elite recruiting class, as well as a couple key returnees from last year, and mixed in a couple of veteran transfers. They brought in the future #1 pick in the NBA draft, Cooper Flagg, who looks like a generational talent, alongside 3 other 5-stars in Common Malawach, Isaiah Evans, and Con Knipple. They returned 2 key guards in Caleb Foster and Tyrese Proctor, and brought in veteran transfers like Sion James from Tulane and Mason Gillis from Purdue, who was in the national championship game last season, and defensive specialist Malik Brown from Syracuse. This Duke team had a great mix of elite talent and veteran presence. They were also the tallest team in the country and ranked 4th in defensive efficiency, and at the same time were ranked 1st in offensive efficiency. Heading into March Madness, this Blue Devil team had only lost 1 game since November 26th. Cooper Flagg was everything he was advertised to be. He led Duke in points, rebounds, assists, steals, and blocks, and every player who got major playing time was at least 6'5". On the defensive end, their height bothered every team they played. Every team that tried to drive on them was met by Flagg or 7'2" Malawach, and out on the perimeter, their big guards were all in your face. And offensively, any team that was smaller than them was at a major disadvantage, and any team that tried to match their height had to deal with Flagg, Knipple, Proctor, and James all on the perimeter. And what made this team even more special on offense was their willingness to pass the ball. However, with all of that talent and likely 3 lottery picks, this team is going to be remembered for their collapse in the Final Four against Houston. The Blue Devils had been the favorites to win it all for over a month, and with how great they had been all season, watching this collapse was almost unbelievable. With 8:17 remaining in the game, Duke was up 14 points, and ESPN Analytics gave them a 98.5% chance to win. And although Houston started to chip away, with 3 minutes left, the Blue Devils led by 9 points. Houston would close the gap again, but even with 1:14 left, Duke was still up 6. From that moment on, there was a comedy of errors from Duke, a team that had been so solid all season long. Turnovers and missed free throws led to Houston scoring the last 9 points of the game. And with all of that talent on the roster and being the presumed favorites, Duke was eliminated again in the Final Four. So what does Duke do from here? They bring in the best talent every single year and just haven't been able to get the job done in a decade. And it's a bit embarrassing that they haven't been able to win a title in that long, with players like Brandon Ingram, Jason Tatum, Zion Williamson, RJ Barrett, Paolo Banchero, and now Cooper Flagg coming through the program. And another interesting thing is, of Duke's 38 5-stars since 2015, only 3 have made an NBA All-Star game. And a couple of those guys who haven't made an All-Star game like RJ Barrett are solid players, but just 3 of your 38 5-stars from the 2015 season making an All-Star game is not a good result. So what's next for Duke? Well, in 2025, they once again have the #1 recruiting class in the country, so it's likely they'll have another good season next year. Will they finally get back to the mountaintop and win a national championship? I guess we'll have to wait and see. If you made it this far, thank you for watching, and please don't forget to like and subscribe, and comment any kind of video you'd like to see in the future.